And I think that that was one of the first questions that a lot of people woke up with after the initial shock of this news wore off was, is this even legal? I mean, what does that really look like? What do you think is the biggest hurdle that the United States has to overcome in this case?
First of all, although the United States is not acknowledging it, other countries have, that he was the sitting leader of another country. With that comes some sense of head of state immunity. They're going to have to overcome that. And from my review of what's out there, there hasn't been any white papers or any sort of legal basis released by the United States to justify them going there, to arrest them the way that they did, and charge them with crimes that largely, the facts contained in, like I said, the facts contained in this indictment largely happened outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. That doesn't mean the United States can't uh, criminally charge or indict or prosecute people for those acts, but it does add an additional hurdle that they need to get over.
And to that point, the 2018 election in Venezuela, along with the 2024 election in Venezuela, are widely viewed as shams, as fraudulent, as illegitimate. But in 2025, at the beginning of 2025, Maduro was still sworn in. So while we don't recognize Maduro as the president of Venezuela, he still was sworn in there. And in the indictment, it says that he was the de facto but illegitimate ruler of the country. I mean, how strong is the argument against head of state immunity, do you think?
I think that's going to be a tough one for the United States. I think they acknowledge that, yes, he was sworn in, and whether or not we think he was legitimate or not, that's a legal question. I think that's going to have to be answered by a judge, and that's one I think that's going to be litigated pretty heatedly from both the defense and the state, because if they can't get past that, I think that this indictment probably fails altogether.
And then on the flip side, too, President Trump has talked before in the past few days about the economic opportunities that this could bring for the United States, the profits that could be made from from the country's oil, the fact that there's going to be businesses going into the country working with the oil. I mean, could Maduro and his team use that against the United States' case and say, hey, this case was brought against me for some ulterior motives here?
Certainly, and without getting in the political weeds on this, which this case opens up an entire Pandora's box of what we should or shouldn't do. But from a legal perspective, really, that's problematic, I think, for the United States to be making statements like that for the very reason you just stated. Was this really about what's contained in the indictment, and we're going after bad people, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to prosecute them? Or was there some other political or financial motive involved? And if there was, I think that undercuts, at least the United States motivation in this case, which could be problematic, I think, for the United States prosecution in this. Really, what you want to do if you file a case like this that, has all these legal landmines, for lack of a better word, you want to keep it to the facts of the case and not make it about something else, or the potential of it being about something else. Because then I think you end up in this situation where you're not even really, it's not really relevant to the facts, but it does undermine why the United States is doing it, and could potentially not only cause us problems in this case, but there's going to be international law, I think, that comes into play largely in this case. And the United States motives are likely going to be questioned when they're looking at, was the United States right in doing this?